Let me see. Right now, it's just a matter of, I don't know. It just feels like it's been forever right now at this point, and it just seems like there's not any real progress, at least in these doors. Um, I don't. I mean, I really don't even know what to say because it feels like it was just kind of time spent here. It doesn't feel like anything really happened.
Troy, what is it like when you see Catherine there, sitting there, and she has information and you can't get it out of her?
Like I said before, I don't even feel like it's just her. I feel like there's three people standing there who have information, and two of them, as far as I know, have kids and are fathers. So, I mean, I don't really understand, how you move forward with this the way that they are. I mean, just as a human being, I couldn't do it.
We were talking about how she's already served time and she only has misdemeanors right now. How does that make you feel knowing the circumstances?
Well, I've met with McCarthy's office and state's attorneys, and I understand what's going on with that. Everything that they're doing as far as the way that they're pressing charges makes sense to me.
Does that concern you, though, when the judge is saying she served basically her misdemeanor charges 7 months and they have nothing else to hold her?
No, it doesn't concern me at all. Right now, her mental state is going to hold her. And to be honest with you, I'm not standing here because I'm looking for justice or revenge. I just want my kids home. Like I said before, I believe that they're still out there at this point, and I just want them to come home. And if the truth is something else, then I just want to find that out. But, I mean, the rest of it will all take care of itself depending upon what's played out.
What's your reaction to the fact that the kids weren't even mentioned in court today, were they?
Not really, no. And I guess that's been my problem with this whole process is there's a lot more emphasis on a case and a conviction or acquittal than finding my actual children or finding out what's going on with them. And that's probably the biggest problem I have with everything.
What is your reaction to the revelation that there's been recent police activity?
Oh, you're talking about the search? They told me when the weather cleared up that they were going to do that, get some fresh eyes out there. We're getting ready to start our searches up again as well. For me, that's more of a process of elimination. We go out there and look as hard as we can, hoping we find nothing. And once they're not out there, then hopefully there will be more resources put on finding my children.
Are you getting any indication whatsoever that the police are ready to charge homicide?
Whenever I met with them, they sounded like they felt like they would go forward whenever it came time to go forward. I don't know. In my from what I've seen from the investigation, from my personal investigation, investigators I have working with me, there's not a whole lot that leads to much of anything except for that they're more than likely out there. Other than, mostly it's just statistics and circumstances that the police have. And I've covered that a million times. They're doing their job, they're playing statistics. But these are my kids out there, and I got to look at what's highly probable from evidence that I've seen, and I believe they're out there, so I'm gonna go find them.
Do you believe they're alive?
Definitely. 100%. If not, I'd be in a pool on my kitchen floor. I wouldn't be able to stand there in front of you.
When police say they're ready to go forward, what does that mean?
I guess it means through circumstances and circumstantial evidence or wherever they feel like they have enough that they can at least put something together. They have a lot of, statistics and things like that. What were you going to say?
How were you doing today, and what are you thinking about your day?
I miss my kids more every day. As far as how I'm doing, I'm just doing. I could easily, break down or whatever, but it's not something that my kids need me to do at this point. If I were to do something like that, I can't leave the people around me to continue, because it's basically right now it's more our resources that are going towards trying to find my children as opposed to just looking for corpses or proving a case. 48 hours in, Montgomery County decided that my kids had to be dead, so it's been on us.
How old are they at this point?
Sarah turned 4 November 20th. That was probably the hardest day of my life. My daughter turning 4 and me, not even being there for it. And then July 3rd, Jacob will be 3. So hopefully he'll be home for his birthday,
Our lives have not changed from day one. A lot of people think that our lives have changed and that we've moved on. And it may have been 7 months, but when you ask him how is he doing and what is he doing, he's doing the same thing that I'm doing. We're continuing to search on both ends of the spectrum. We're following up on tips. The police are following up on what they can, but tips are still coming into us daily about the kids being alive. So Troy's taken more on following up on the tips, and I've taken more on the search area as far as for if they're not alive. We want to know what happened. Seeing her in here today was just like a normal day for us at this point, because we know that this is how the law works. We know that she's going to be brought in here. We're hoping that today, to me, she looked a little bit more softened, maybe. I don't know if it's the medication or what's going on, but we hope that she will come around. It's not about her, but it's about finding the kids, but we hope that she will, and we're praying for her also.
Do you mind stepping forward just a little to the mic so we can hear you?
Sure.
And you told her something as she was leaving the door. You said, call me anytime.
Well, she used to call me before, anytime something was going on, and she might have been out on a whim, or something was terribly wrong, or maybe she wasn't feeling so great at the time, or on one of her ups or downs, as we all get on at certain times, and it wasn't that prevalent at that time what was going on to us, I think. And I was the one that she did call, and even talk to for 2 hours on the phone sometimes and everything, and I think she kind of sees me as being like her in some ways, and I want to open up that door to let her know whether I need to be put on the list or whether she needs to give the number, get the number from, Troy or from her mother again or something, that I am open up to listening to anything that, she wants to talk to me about, and she can call me at any time.
When was the last time you talked with Catherine?
I haven't talked to her since before she went in. Yeah, since before she went in. And even whenever she was getting help before, and institutionalized before, she still called me even at that point, and the kids were with me, and we're helping. We've always helped out with everything, and my door has always been open to her on those terms, as far as to make sure that everyone in the family is doing okay.
Well, if I can read lips, John McCarthy is telling her attorney, tell us where those kids are, and he's saying, I don't know where those kids are. Do you think she should be compelled to tell where the kids are? John's going at it, the attorney up there.
The attorneys up there. I would say that I would be, if I was him. I mean, like I said before, as a human being, I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, having kids of my own. But I mean, that's,
The system.
Yeah, I don't blame the system for people.
She knows.
So does she know? Oh, she definitely. Yeah, she 100% knows. I mean, and my question is, okay, so if she told her attorneys or not, and if she did, then I mean, just as a human being, as a person, as a father, I wouldn't be able to keep that. I mean, to me, there's no job worth having someone's kids out there. So I mean, even if it was against what I was supposed to do, then I would still go forward because it's just what's right.
I'm not sure exactly how the system works, but it was told to me that if he did tell, then he would be incriminating her. My thing is, the way that the system works, if that is truth, then there's a problem with the legal system if you're going to incriminate someone who has done something. But we're hoping that the kids are still alive and still out there, and that she would want to see the kids eventually, or tell us what happened either way.
Are you worried that...
I'll go get them.
Troy,
Huh?
are you worried that if she is found competent, that she has served the time and that she would be released?
Honestly, my concern's not with her right now. My concern's just with my kids. Like, I don't even think about that stuff as far as she goes. I feel like everything else can play out after the fact. I just want my babies home,
I mean, there's nothing more painful than not knowing where your kids are.
Right.
I mean, what emotions go through you when you do see someone who has the answer?
It is indescribable. It's indescribable.
Clearly, Mr. McCarthy's not a happy man. I
No.
think I could read your lips saying, I don't know where they are. If that's the case, do you not know where these kids are?
I can't answer a question like that, and I think that you did not do a good job reading lips because that wasn't part of the discussion at all.
He looks not happy.
You'll have to ask Mr. McCarthy.
You understand why he would not be happy and the father of the children would not be happy that we come to court, we're going to see in 60 days, and nobody's compelling anybody to say anything about where these kids are.
I don't know that the goal of this proceeding is to make people happy. I certainly understand that emotions run high, yes.
Okay, can we get an understanding, if she's found competent and if this case goes to trial, do you expect her to be released or do you expect her to be charged with homicide?
The state's attorney is in control of how this matter proceeds from a procedural point of view. The pending charges, as the judge noted, are in this court, in the district court. This would not be the court where any homicide charges would be tried. Those would be across the street in the circuit court. The state's attorney has said, and you'll have to ask Mr. McCarthy's office, but the state's attorney has said that they have options relative to their investigation. That is their prerogative. The judge today was talking about the misdemeanor charges that are pending in this court. The judge was emphasizing that if and when Ms. Hoggle is found competent, that because of the time that she has spent detained, that it seemed to us that he doesn't want to drag out a court date. those were the issues today.
The judge said that she's showing some signs of improvement, but she's still incompetent. Do you agree with that?
I'm going to leave that to the doctors.
Excuse me.
I'm going to leave, excuse me, I'm going to leave that to the doctors.
What, so, where do we go? Just we'll see her maybe in 2 months?
We have a court date July 10th. I assume that Perkins will continue to do their good work, and we'll see where we are July 10th.
And again, you're trying to get sanctions against the state's attorney's office for not providing you with information about the investigation that they have. Is that correct?
If any of you will recall, we had issues in October and November, which were discussed at that time. We did file motions. There have been no new motions filed since November 18th. We do think we're entitled to that information. If the cases don't go forward in this court, they don't go forward in this court. But at least as it stands now, with the judge emphasizing that there would be a trial date, we think we're entitled to that information. And things stand where they stand.
Does Catherine Hoggle want to reveal the whereabouts of her children?
I can't speak to that. I don't even know if she knows the whereabouts of her children.
Have you asked her?
The family believes that you guys know where the children are, do you?
First of all, I can't answer that question, and I have no idea why the family would believe that.
Just a yes or no answer, just a yes or no question. Not saying that you to tell your information, but the family believes you know where the kids are, yes or no?
I can't speak to what the family believes. I'm sorry.
You could ask me.
I'm relaying Joyce's notice of Sarian. Sorry for what's going on right now and everything, and that you're in the middle of this, and I'm keeping you in my prayers too. I do. I feel for you having to go home and everything, but I'm keeping you in my prayers.
Does anybody else have any questions at this point?
God's going to handle all of this.
Does anybody have any other questions? All right, have a good day.
We just came from a status conference on the Hoggle matter. As it was indicated in open court, Ms. Hoggle, according to a letter that we received, I think all parties received, the court received it, and both counsel received the letter, that she remains incompetent to stand trial at this time. Today's status hearing was, I thought, to explore that particular matter. I will indicate, I know Troy and I have met many times about what's going on in this case. Just a little background on this matter. I think everybody that's involved in this case recognizes that ultimately this matter will not be tried in this building. This matter will not be tried in the district court. This matter will be transferred ultimately when she becomes competent. This matter is going to transfer to the circuit court for trial. And so to a certain extent, some of the issues that were discussed, and Troy knows this because we've been meeting with him and meeting with his attorneys and keeping him up to date with what's happening. We anticipate this matter, when Catherine is restored to competency, to being transferred to another court, and when the documentation and the charges, whatever they are at that point in time, the discovery would be provided in the appropriate court that will have jurisdiction over the matter. The reality is this court will not ultimately have jurisdiction over this case. That's the reality that we're dealing with. And I would also indicate, and I've talked to Troy about this, as long as Catherine remains incompetent to stand trial, there is no logical reason to move forward seeking an indictment from a grand jury. And I would just explain briefly the reason for that, and Troy knows this because we've discussed this. If you seek an indictment and obtain an indictment, you can no longer use the grand jury for the purposes of investigative purposes. Once you seek an indictment, you can no longer use a grand jury for the purposes of investigative purposes. Well, as this case remains open and the investigation continues, it makes logical sense to keep open the possibility that you could have the grand jury available to you if you needed them as a resource for investigating this case wherever the case leads you. Everybody knows this. All the lawyers know this. We know this. The police know this. We've been openly discussing this with all the parties involved in this case. I've told Troy this on multiple occasions. So we've remained sort of in a holding pattern because that's the right thing to do to allow us to have the maximum options for exploring other leads that may develop in this case and having the availability of using the grand jury. And again, ultimately, I'm hopeful and that as the doctors at Perkins have told us, that they will continue to work on restoring the competency of Catherine Hoggle. This is a situation that is beyond the control of my office. This is a situation that's in the hands of a team of medical doctors at Clifton T. Perkins Hospital. And once they tell us that they have in fact restored her competency, and through what they call a restorative competency plan, we will move forward intelligently on what makes the most sense for us. But we, again, we're actually when this hearing was, we are in a holding pattern, and everyone understands where we are.
John, what was that all about? Up there, you looked pretty upset.
I think that we're in a holding pattern. I think that everybody knows that. I just think that I think that all of us who are involved in this case know where we are. We know that we're going to ultimately wind up across the street. We're not going to wind up in this building trying this matter in this court.
In terms of finding the kids, most people don't care where you are, what side of the street.
Oh.
You're frustrated
Oh.
that you're not getting information about where the kids are.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's not correct. No, I thought this was a rather simple hearing today about what is the status of her treatment at Clifton T. Perkins Hospital, and when can we hope to get an order from the hospital that tells us she is competent to stand trial. That was the single purpose of today's hearing.
You look a lot more passionate up there than
No, that's our conversation was about the competency and where we are in the case.
Okay, if she is brought back to court, if she's determined to be competent, judge has already said she's already been in custody longer than the statutory minimum. So would she be released, or would you have to bring homicide charges?
Let me say, I think that question is moot. Will ultimately become moot. I'm not going to speak beyond that. I just think that I understand what the judge said. I think as a matter of law, what the judge says is probably correct. But I think that issue will ultimately be moot when we move across the street.
And the judge seemed frustrated about information that hasn't been what he called promised to the defense attorney. Does this go into what you said before, the first?
Well, typically, when a case is indicted in Montgomery County, the discovery package relative to that information is provided on the date that the indictment is returned. The indictment has not been returned. That's typically the process. And again, if the judge wants us to accelerate that, and he has ordered that, we will absolutely honor the court's order in that. But again, the typical process for discovery is once an indictment is handed down, you provide the discovery, coincidentally, with the indictment being returned by the grand jury. That's how things normally work.
Can you talk about the investigation in general terms? Put aside the competency. If she is held or she is deemed competent, where would the investigation be?
Well, I try to avoid talking about the investigation. I would talk privately to Troy, and I have on multiple occasions, and to other family members, and we brief them regularly. But I think this is a police investigation, and we generally, I think if there's going to be a comment on the investigation, I think the appropriate people to talk about the investigation are the police that are conducting the investigation.
Are you ready to move forward once that's done?
When we arrive at that date, we'll, look, things are always evolving. In every legal case, the facts will take you to where you'll ultimately wind up. If something else develops in the next couple of weeks or months as we are waiting for her to be restored to competency, clearly we have to take that into consideration. So I think that's a premature question.
She is found competent, say, next week or 2 weeks. They bring her to trial. Could she just have time served and be released? Is that
No.
worry?
Well, let me say, I think that it is very likely that ultimately there would be additional charges in this case. And so the issue that was posited upstairs is, I think ultimately would be a moot issue, which is, I thought, I was trying to answer that for Chris earlier, but I think we would, look, again, I don't want to prejudge where we are because I think we have an obligation to continue to consider every fact, every lead that develops during the weeks. I know that periodically the family members, including Troy himself, call me with information that they develop. I talk to the police. They follow up on that. These things happen on a regular basis. So I'm not going to prejudge where we go, but at some point in time, once Catherine is found competent, we will have to see where we are precisely at that moment in time and then determine what are the most appropriate charges to be brought.
Are you all concerned that others besides Ms. Hoggle might know where the kids are and they're not giving it up?
I think that I think that's a reasonable thing for us to be concerned about. And again, the family and I have talked about that. There have been different people who have been identified by the family as possibly having information about the whereabouts of the kids. And quite candidly, I think the police have been very thorough about that. I've sat down with some of those people. The police have sat down with those people. And if leads like that develop, we will follow up on that. We have in the past, and we'll continue to do that.
Any last thoughts about the kids? This is all focusing on finding the kids.
This is a very sad case. I know what Troy's wishes are. I know what his hopes are as a father. I have those same hopes. We ultimately will have to deal with the realities that we have and the facts we have at hand. But I share his hope. And for his children, we ultimately will have to deal with the reality of what we're left with.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.